Okay, let's talk about multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers. So, the rules. What happens when you multiply a positive times a positive? Yeah, you get a positive, exactly. Now, when we were talking about adding, if I were to say I owed $3, I owed another $3, I owed another $3, I keep borrowing money, right? This is the same thing as -3. It happened how many times? 3 times. So how much do I owe now? -9. So what happens when you have a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive? Same thing. You get a negative. Okay? Oops, that's a negative times a negative. Sorry. This one is negative. My bad. What about a negative times a negative? Yes, it's the same thing. It's like that double negative I was talking about. If I say I'm not going to not teach the class, that's a positive statement. So look at, I always try to look for those examples in your everyday life about why a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so let's just do a few of these. What is -4 times 3? -12, right? What is negative times a negative is going to be a positive 18. Good. What about -12 divided by 3? -4. Good. What about -40 divided by -8? And these are the ones I might put on flashcards, by the way. 5. Positive 5. Good. Okay, now you've got 2 negatives, but you have 3 numbers being multiplied. What do you think that answer is going to be there? 24. And is it positive or negative? Positive, because you had 2 negatives, so they cancel each other out. Here you have 4 negatives. So a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative. An even number of negatives, what do you think that's going to be? A positive. So this is a positive, and it's basically, isn't it the exact same answer, 24? Okay, what about this one? This is essentially half of 10, right? 0.5 is the same thing as half. Negative times a negative is positive. What's half of 10? 5. Good. 0.5 is the same thing as 1/2, right? Oh, this is not the same thing as a quarter. This is actually the same thing as 40% of 100. 40% of 100. It's going to be, 40% of 100 is going to be -40. -40? Yeah, because if you think about it, this is actually the same problem as 10 times 4. And actually that's a negative. Because all I did is I changed 1 decimal place here, so I change it there. 0.4 is the same thing as 40%. Don't worry, we're going to do more with percents later. Okay, now here it says if 52 times 61 equals, yes, but I'm saying, okay, so I didn't read the whole problem. There's the decimal point one, right? Negative times a negative, what's our answer going to be? Positive, right? So now, if I had 100, what's 100 times 100, by the way? One, 2, 3, 4, right? What is 10 times 10? 100. You see how this is only a difference of 2 decimal places, right? If I were to move this decimal place over 1 and this one over 1, I lose 2 zeros. So they're saying if 52 times 61 is 3,172, all we need is how many more decimal places in our answer? 2. So what, does anybody know what it would be? Where should the decimal point go? Yes, because I have 2 decimal points here, I'm going to take it over 2 decimal points. You see how 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 100 is 10,000. So if I move the decimal over 2, if I insert a decimal here and here, then I would move the decimal over 2. I would get 100. Anyway, maybe that makes sense. Maybe it helps. Maybe it doesn't. Okay, what about this one? -4 times 0 is 0. Good. What about 0 divided by 4? So you guys, I'm really generous. I'm gonna take, I have $0. I'm gonna divide it between all of you. Let's say there's 30 people. How much will you each get? 0. So when you divide 0 up, you can have 0, right? You can divide 0 up. You just get nothing. You still get the number 0. But what happens if you had let's say I had $30. No, and I don't have it. No one had it. 0 people are splitting up $30. So here's the thing. When you have the number 30, what's the denominator on the number 30 implied? The denominator is 1, because if there's $30, someone's going to claim it. It's not going to go unclaimed. It's kind of like the question, if a tree falls in the forest, no one's there to hear it, will it make a sound? I don't know why those are related actually at all. But what happens when 0 people split up some money? How much does each person get? That doesn't even make sense. That question is not answerable. We call that undefined, okay? One of my Math 60 classes told me one time, they said the only person who can divide by 0, do you know who it is? Chuck Norris. It's the only one. I'm not Chuck Norris, you're not Chuck Norris, so none of us are allowed to divide by 0. This is a really important concept right here about 0, and a lot of times people really mess that up. It's like 0, there's actually whole books written about 0, the biography of a dangerous idea. Have you ever heard of it? Well, it's an actual book that exists, and it talks about how humans took so long to even come up with the concept of the number 0. But it is a real number, it doesn't follow the rule of division. You're not allowed to divide by 0. So we just call that number undefined, meaning we don't have a number divided by 0, right? But we use it a lot in math and it will come up a lot. So it's really important to remember the difference between those two. We'll have to make some flashcards. Okay, we'll stop this video and we'll do the next one, exponents.